fun. Kind of different vibe now talking to the two of you. So we'll just kind of do this off the cuff. This is fun.
Why not?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So yeah. First of all, just talk about, because I don't even know this whole story myself. Just how long the two of you have been kind of working together and doing your thing together as a team.
10 years now. We playing all the way back to a record I made in '96 called "Melting in the Dark." Linda joined the band for that record, and it's been ever since then.
What has Linda brought to the table?
She's a great drummer, and you know, we were being a couple playing music together.
Yeah.
It brings a whole different thing to the music. There's a lot of connection. I think the best music comes from a reflection of what's happening in your life. That being as honest, things inside your head, the things you do, your daily reality. And my life and my music, there's really no difference at this point. It all ties together.
Mm-hmm. How does that affect your writing? And you're all playing together when you guys are together, because obviously in every song is dealing with your relationship now, of course.
Oh my, not at all.
Right?
As I always say, if every song was about me, I'd be dead by now.
Couple times over.
Couple times over.
But obviously, being happy doesn't affect the fact that you can write from any space, and as a writer, you can create and make anything happen.
I think that, you know, I don't believe anymore that you have to be, you know, miserable to write good music, or you have to be. I think you really just have to put yourself in the right space and in the right mood, and just
channel misery.
Channel whatever, but channel the things you love in music. If from the beginning, the way I always would write songs and make records was I'd imagine the song I'd always want to hear, imagine the record I always want to hear, and then do it. And it seems like such a simple thing. It seems like, you know, but it really does work. I'm a music fan, and I know the things I like, and I know the things I don't like, and I kind of try to only do the things I like.
Yeah. And your style is obviously meshed and gelled with Steve's philosophy about it.
Well, we had pretty much the exact same record collection. That was one of the first things we realized when we started dating was, wow, I'm not getting any new records by dating you, but this is a good sign. So I mean, it was pretty seamless, I think, when we started playing together, just because we were coming from, you know, we had the same sort of palette of ideas and sounds, but different enough where I think it kind of challenged each other too. So.
And talk about kind of how that's evolved over the course of the records and the kind of music you guys are making today. If you got the place, put into words the music you're making now. If you can describe what it is and how that's evolved, maybe over just the 10 years, not your whole career, but the 10 years of you guys working together.
Well, I think especially in the last 5 or 6 years, I think we've really hit a stride with the recent records, and it's been very exciting. For what I like, I'm more proud of things, the last 3 records, than anything I've ever done, and the response from fans, from the public, from the media, whatever, have been really encouraging. And I think we've just been playing like a band, playing like a really good band. And you know, I played in a band in the Dream Syndicate for most of the '80s, and when the band broke up, the last thing I wanted to do was be in a band. I wanted just to play with everybody I could possibly play with. It was a, you know, kid in a candy store type of thing. I wanted to, all the people I'd ever admired, all the people I'd ever been friends with but couldn't play with. It was time to bring them all in, and the idea of playing with anybody for 2 records in a row was crazy. But what's happened in the last 5 years with Linda and with the rest of our band, with Jason, Victor, and Dave DeCastro, this solid band we've had, Steve Wynn and the Miracle 3, is that we've really developed, even though it's my name on the front of it, we're a band. We are together for months at a time, never more than 2 feet apart from each other.
Rarely.
And you really, there's a certain style of music you play when you have that kind of, as I said before, when your life is intertwined with your music so closely.
That invigorates the writing as well as the playing, obviously.
Almost like on him, a radio or something.
We'll cut to the chase, too. Let's talk about the new record. First of all, then we can work our way back and make sure we get all the good stuff.
Okay, right, sure.
The good stuff on tape. But talk about the vibe with this one, what you were trying to do differently or the same as the last few records.
The thing with the new record is we've been touring a lot, been on the road, doing about 100 shows a year, and I wanted to get a record that sounds like the band that's been playing live on stage around the world. You know, it's so often bands make a record and then 6 months later say, man, the record's good, but the live show is so much better, man. I wish we could go back now. And I wanted for once to have a record that really felt like what we do on stage, and we did it.
Now, you've been doing this long enough where you know how to make that happen, if that's what you're thinking. What does that mean in terms of time, in terms of how you guys play?
Well, we took the songs on the road for a while first and played them live in clubs and did a little bit of touring before we went in the studio. That's part of it. But you know, it's funny, yes, I've been doing it for a long time, but you just keep learning more as you go along. And The difference between now and say 10 years ago is I just feel very comfortable in the studio. I know what I'm doing, how I want everything to sound, and just having confidence in the band I play with and letting them loose. And that makes a big difference. It's amazing how when you have a good band and when you've been playing a lot of shows and when you're comfortable with each other, how easily, if you just trust the process, trust what's happening, it'll work out.
And talk about how good that feels to have a new record that sounds, as vital or better than anything you've done at this point in your career, that just sounds so fresh and so new. Is that just a complete joy? It must be a complete joy for you when you come out of the studio knowing you put something like that together.
It feels, there's nothing better than finishing a record and knowing you like it. And that you honestly know that you really dig it. You're not whitewashing yourself, you're not fooling yourself, you know you like what you did. That's a great feeling. And you always want it to be that way. I think people get the wrong idea about musicians and think, well, if a record isn't great, they weren't trying hard enough, or they didn't care enough, or they were distracted by other things. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes no matter how badly you want it to work, it just doesn't work. And when everything's aligned, and everything's happening the way it should be, and when all the things you can't control are all lining up in the right way, that's a great feeling.
A little bit of luck
And a
doesn't
whole
hurt
lot
either.
of luck.
Talk about a little bit more about the sound of this record and how it varies from the last couple, the live feeling, but there's lots of distortion, and it's a pretty about as rocking as it gets for a Steve Wynn record in recent years.
Yeah, it's kind of where I came from the beginning. I mean, a lot of when I started with the Dream Syndicate a while ago, we were big fans of noise and distortion, garage music, something between punk rock that was happening just before that and the 60s garage rock we loved. It was a good combination. And I would kind of get away from that and come back to it over the years, but this time I wanted to make a record that was that like crazy. I mean, I wanted this record to be just the loudest, hardest, wildest, livest thing I'd done. And it turned out that way. And part of the reason for that, again, is the touring. With all the touring we've done, all the shows we've played, we'd gotten to the point where we just, in trying to win over new people every night and trying to excite old fans, new fans, make, just every night, we just would get faster and harder and wilder and everything. And it was an exciting feeling. You walk off stage after a show like that and you're wired, you're thrilled. The audience is wired, they're thrilled. So I figured, why not make a record that does the same thing?
What's it like now bringing that record back out to the public after coming from the live shows into the studio and then bringing it now back out on the road and playing these new songs?
It's translated really well live. So yeah, it was really easy it's not always so easy when you make a record. Sometimes, you've layered some things on it and you take it out to play it live and you start to realize, ooh, that's kind of hard to pull that off. And, but with this record, it was done live. It was done just with the four of us as a band. And so, yeah, it's easy.
Being here in LA, you started off in LA, you're in New York now. Talk about those two sensibilities of having been here, a good part of your life, and then going to New York and still writing songs about LA, though I know on certain records.
It's true.
Yeah. How much of that's still part of you? And
it's still a big part of me. I mean, I lived here for 30 years and did a lot of hanging out here and a lot of playing here, a lot of driving here. It's a city that's in my blood, and there's a lot of what I do is compared to noir writing. I could get a lot of that, of the Raymond Chandler and the Ross MacDonald and the James Elroy and that kind of thing. And that's what happens when you live here your whole life. You spend a lot. LA is no accident. It's no surprise that LA has inspired most of that writing. It's you spend a lot of time in your car driving down streets with neon blinking in the rain, and when there is rain, it's at 2 a.m. and that kind of thing. And that's a big part of my writing. It's still there. But at the same time, New York has really been a real jolt of energy in the writing I've done and the records I've made in the last 10 years, mainly because it's just an exciting city. I always tell people, it's easy to write a song in New York. You walk out your door, you walk down the street a few blocks, listen to the conversation around you, write it down, hum a tune, put it behind the conversation, you've got a song. It's that easy.
If you got the talent to pull it off.
If you don't worry about copyright infringement for the people walking the street next to you.
or earning rent.
Yes, right.
Most people are at work.
Yeah.
Is it that simple? Did you come and hum in a song and that's it?
It's happened. He's gone to return a video and come back like a little bit, late. Like, where were you? Did you stop off for a coffee? No, I wrote a song on the park bench. So.
But that is the thing about writing. I'm really a believer in that the idea that the songs are always there, the writing is always there. You just have to be open to it, you have to be receptive to it. It's all around you all the time. And being in a place like New York where you're in the midst of so much noise of every kind, conversation, sounds, things, excitement. You just got to kind of snatch it out of the air. And LA, which was a great city to live in, and of course a big influence on me, but you spend a lot of time alone, isolated in a bubble, and you're drawing from the thoughts inside your head, which is a good place, but I emptied that out a while ago. I need some other thoughts.
You mentioned these LA writers, and I've heard your name mentioned in the same breath as some of these guys over the years, comparing what you do to them. What's that feel like for you, and how much of that have you kind of like enjoyed and taken in and be kind of placed along with that pantheon of
It's a good thing to be compared to. I like being part of that. It's a style of writing I like a lot. And the thing about the crime fiction, about noir fiction, and is that it's written very rhythmically. You read these writers like James L. Raymond Chandler, or like George Pelecanos, who wrote a song with me on the new record. You read these writers and you feel like you're hearing a song. It just has a beat to it. It just kind of, it's clipped, it's fast, it cooks, it grooves, and that's it's like songwriting right there.
Mm-hmm.
So
how'd that come about? You buddies with George Pelecanos? And it's kind of cool that he was on the record, as it were.
It is. I mean, I first heard about George Pelecanos because a friend of mine said, there's this great crime fiction writer who's been dropping your name and your old band's name pretty liberally in his books. And, being just vain enough, I was curious to see what it was all about. So I read his books and flipped over them. He's just a great writer. And we met each other, and he's a fan of my music. I like his writing. And at one point I said, look, because he writes a lot about music in his books. So you love music, you're a writer, why not write a song? And he'd never done it before, so just write a lyric and see how it goes. And he sent it to me, and I liked it, and turned into a song on the record.
Very cool. You mentioned that collaboration, and obviously the two of you collaborating, and in recent first records were a lot of collaboration because you had the chance. But we even talked before this. You have so many friends, over the years in the music biz and in rock and roll. Mm-hmm. You're always kind of doing stuff with your friends and colleagues and kind of making music when you can, right?
Right. Yeah. Collaboration is exciting. I mean, I know there are a lot of musicians who are the types who will write a song, tell everybody what to play, script it out and say, you will do this like this, and then you'll get out of here. And that's not my style. I really get excited by reacting to things around me, to being with interesting players, with new people, having changes, people coming, going, new sounds, new styles, whatever it is. That's what excites me. I think most of what I do as a musician or as a writer is reacting to something else. So when you got something good to draw upon, what you come out with is going to be good as well.
When you look back at your career, are there certain records that kind of stand out, not better than others, but certainly hold a certain special place in your heart as special moments in your life?
Oh yeah, probably any musician will have records like that, and for me, I've got a bunch of them. One, what I've done over the years is this kind of thing of 2 guitars, bass, and drums, and taking those 4 people and just inventing stuff as you go along. A lot of improvising, a lot of, like I say, things changing night to night, a lot of reflecting the mood. And I like bands that do that, and I was very influenced by Television, Neil Young and Crazy Horse, the Velvet Underground, a lot of things like this, just great 4-piece bands that just created something new every minute, every night, every month, whatever.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the key is to your longevity? The fact that you're still writing music is good or better than you ever did, and you're still very prolific, putting out records almost every year.
I think the key is that I still like doing this.
Yeah.
It's not. In fact, I like doing it more than ever. I think that when I started doing it at the very beginning, I was thrilled to be doing it. I was a music fan. The idea that I could make records in the same way my heroes made records and that people would like them was exciting. Over time, I got a little nervous, became a burden. You get a little shy about losing it because you're so excited by it. And somehow in the last 5-10 years, I've really gotten to the point where I'm just having a ball doing it. It's fun. Every time I write a song and make a record, play a show, it's fun. I'm curious to see what will happen next. So that keeps me in it.
What have the fans been telling you guys on the road, the new music? What kind of feedback have you been getting, talking to people?
The new record is, it's going great. I think people are really loving the live show. And I mean, it does kind of continue to get sort of like more and more out of control and in a good way, which I think people are appreciating that. It seems like a good time. People need to let off some steam right now.
Is this kind of the beginning of a new chapter in terms of, are you going to switch it up for the next record and what you're doing, or have you thought that far ahead, or you always, how does that work for you in terms of once the record's done?
I never know where it's going next. I never have any idea.
Yeah, he's not kidding about that. He doesn't know.
Really, each record is just kind of a reflection of where we're at that moment, and what I'm thinking about, what I'm into, and who I'm playing with, and how we're sounding together. And even if I try to plan it, I probably will change my mind 100, 200 times between now and then.
That's a pretty good estimate.
How often are you writing? You mentioned how easy it is in terms of things that inspire you. Are you always writing on the road? You get a free night, or you jot things down? Or?
You know, I've never been the kind of person who can write on the road. I write a lot when I'm home, and in fact, after a long tour, within days of getting home, it just opens up and I start writing again. For whatever reason, I can't. I think a lot of the reason is that when you're on tour, there's so much going on, so much music all the time. You're playing, you know, you're sound checking, your music in the clubs, and I think by the time you're back at the hotel and kind of where you would be writing, the best sound possible is silence. You're just so happy to kind of have a break there, and I think that I write from an absence of something. I write to fill the void in the way I want it to be filled. I write to hear when there's music that I want to exist and it doesn't exist, I put it there. I got to tell you, after you've been in a club for 8 hours a night, there's no void to be filled.
Yeah, there is no void.
The void is beautiful.
When you're up there playing, like you've been doing, and you've been playing songs you've been playing for a long time, is your head still in the same place when you're playing as it was years and years ago? The same kind of things going through your head? Are you solely in the song? Have you learned how to? What kind of things are going through your mind?
I generally, because just when I'm doing my old songs, things I've done from older records, I'm a cover band. I'm taking the old songs, I'm just covering them, and I'm kind of doing justice to them. And wherever I am right now is the way I interpret an old song. Mm-hmm. And that's generally the way. I mean, we have probably about 100 songs we choose between from all different parts of my career, and I love going back and playing them because they become new. Mainly because I don't try to recreate them the way they were. I just let them be whatever they want to be.
Mm-hmm. What time of a day like today do you guys come up with the set list or thinking about the show?
About 5 minutes before the show.
I'll come up with the set list, and then we'll start, and he'll change it in the middle of the show. So it's
Does
just
it always work that way?
Yeah. It's a formality, the piece of paper that we put in front of us, because he's pulled out songs that we've never even heard before. There's been times where it's like, just follow me. Yeah, it's a little game he likes to play.
You know, it's just being on stage, and I think the worst thing for playing music, whether it's in the studio or on a stage, is when you know what's going to happen next all the time. When you can predict the next thing always, when you just say, well, we always do it like this, so it'll always turn out like that. That's when I start getting nervous, and that's when I throw in a song the band doesn't know, or change the set list just to kind of shake things up. I think most of my favorite things that have ever happened to me musically, in the studio, on stage, or anything, has been a surprise. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been a case of, great, I finally executed exactly the way I wanted to execute it, but instead it was a matter of that I had no idea that was coming, and that's really exciting.
Did you learn that trick early on, or did it take a few years as a musician to pull that off?
I think just boredom, crankiness, whatever it is, I just would do that now to make me happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, look at my list. I'm doing this completely.
You're doing great.
On my own to make sure that's not I forgot that I originally was thinking about. You guys good? Does it sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It came back a little bit.
We've almost never done an interview together.
He's going on
First times.
Yeah, not too
Right, so it's sort of.
faint.
I love music and stuff.
Right,
Right,
just
right,
let you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Heads up about it.
Right.
You want me to stop a second? or-
No, we're good. You guys talked a little bit about it, but just going to Arizona to record these records and what that kind of change it seemed like. We talked about LA versus New York, but actually going out there and just the whole where that came from, the purpose of that.
Just 1 second, 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
To Tucson?
To Tucson, there was right about the time we had finished a tour for a record called My Midnight, and I was getting to the point where it felt too predictable, too pat, too much, too rote. Like I knew what we were going to be doing next, and I wanted a surprise. I wanted something different. And you get that feeling where you don't know what you want if you're a writer or a musician, but you want something new, something that's going to excite you, and you have no idea what it is. That can drive you nuts. And I figured the way to find it would be to go to someplace I've never been before and be in a different situation. And a friend of mine, Hal Gelb from a band called Giant Sand, he recommended this place in Tucson called Wave Lab Studios. And he said, well, it's a pretty cool place. The good studio with a lot of good equipment, and the engineer there is a good guy, and it's cheap and there's great Mexican food. You got me. I was sold. We went out there. it was easy to take a chance because it was just kind of a very low-key place. It wasn't expensive. There wasn't a clock ticking. It was just a relaxed vibe. And by the time I got out there, it was the antithesis of everything we'd done. The antithesis of making records in Los Angeles or New York, because it was so laid back. It was so chaotic in the right way, where things were so unplanned. And if you try to enforce your New York minute sensibility on the life in Tucson, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, and so by slowing down everything and by shaking things up like that, we relaxed and let things happen. And it was a real lesson that if you're around the right people in the right place and you don't try to force an agenda, you might get something really good. And Tucson really brought that. It is a whole different. As a person who lived my entire life in Los Angeles and New York, Tucson couldn't be more different from what I knew than any place else. It was incredible.
If this album, I don't know if you guys have a single per se, but if there was a single, is there a certain song that kind of stands out?
Play Bruises.
Yeah.
That's the one that's the kind of. It's not just because it's a good poppy song and and it has hooks and all that, but also I think kind of it says a lot about what I feel about where I'm at this point in music. It's a kind of the that you can I've been making records and touring for 25 years, and I've had comebacks and disappointments, and not always ones I agreed with, but a lot of ups and downs, and times where things got lean, times where things were great. And after a while, you learn, you just kind of knock yourself down, and you get up again, and it's probably better than ever. It's the road down. The down times are rough and frustrating, but they make the comebacks and the good times even more rewarding.
Very good. Well said. But good music along the way.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure talking to you guys.
It's definitely a pleasure. We were just saying this, I think we've only done 2 or 3 interviews together.
Oh, yeah?
That'd be kind of fun.
Washed away.